Way out in the high deserts of Arizona, the Hopi people have a story that seriously challenges our modern understanding of history. It's an incredible legend about a massive cataclysm, about survival, and about help that came from a place you would never ever expect. So let's dive into one of their most fascinating mysteries. The author Frank Waters, who actually lived with and studied the Hopi for years, he really got it right. He saw them as something more than just a tribe. He saw them as keepers of this incredibly deep, ancient knowledge. And right at the core of that knowledge is this unbelievable story of survival.
So the story goes like this. The Hopi oral traditions talk about a time when the world was literally on the edge of complete annihilation. But, just when it seemed like all was lost, help showed up from a totally unexpected place. A mysterious group of beings who offered humanity a safe haven deep underground.
So, who exactly were these mysterious saviors? Well, the Hopi have a name for them, the Anusinom. And that translates to the ant people. And believe me, their story is something else.
According to the legends, the Anusinom were this race of small, kind of humble beings, but they were incredibly intelligent and, well, good-hearted. They lived deep inside the earth in these huge, complex colonies, which is, of course, where they get the name ant people.
Okay, and what's really fascinating is the very specific description that's been passed down by the Hopi elders for generations. You can see it here. They talk about large heads, thin, slender bodies, and these long, kind of delicate limbs. Now, they looked a bit like ants, sure, but the legends are very, very clear on this point. They were not insects. They were these beings of immense wisdom who really understood the secrets of the earth and the cosmos.
So here's how the whole saga of the Great Salvation went down. It all kicked off with an omen in the sky, a weird cloud and a moving star. This guided the virtuous people to the sky god Sotuknong, and he, in turn, led them to the ant people. From there, they were taken down into the earth for safety, and while they were there, they were taught everything from survival skills to how to use their inner sight. And then finally, when the cataclysm was over, they came back out into a new world through this sacred opening called the Sipapu, which for the Hopis symbolizes their very place of origin.
All right, now this is where the story goes from fascinating to just mind-blowing. The Hopi story about surviving a catastrophe by going underground, it's not a one-off. You can find echoes of this exact same theme in ancient cultures all over the planet.
Let's just take a quick trip to ancient Persia. In the Zoroastrian holy texts, there's a story about a king named Yima. He gets a warning from the god Ahura Mazda that a world-ending winter is coming. So he's told to build this massive underground shelter called a vara. And what does he put in it? The best of humanity, plus pairs of every animal, and the best seeds, all to preserve life until the world was safe again. Sound familiar?
Or how about this one? The Nagas in Hindu and Buddhist mythology. They're these divine, sometimes serpent-like beings who live in this gorgeous underworld called Patala Loka. And guess what? Just like the ant people, they are these benevolent guardians of incredible wisdom and secret knowledge, and they often step in to help humanity when things get tough.
I mean, the pattern is literally everywhere. The Hopi's own neighbors, the Zuni and the Navajo, have their own very similar stories about emerging from an underworld after some terrible disaster. And you can even go back to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who wrote about Atlantis, this incredible civilization that vanished under the ocean in a single catastrophic day and night. The themes are always the same: destruction and survival.
So you have to ask, right? Are all of these stories just remarkable coincidences, or could they all be pointing to some shared, incredibly ancient event in our collective human story? Well, the clue might actually be hiding in the language itself.
You see, while Anusinom is the name we hear a lot for the ant people, researchers like Gary David found that there's an older, even more literal name that the Hopi used for them, the ant friends.
It's actually pretty simple. In the Hopi language, the word for ant is Anu, and the word they use for friends is Naki, so you put those two together and you get
Anunnaki. Now, if you're at all familiar with ancient Sumerian myths, that name should make the hairs on your arms stand up. It is shockingly close to the Anunnaki, the powerful gods from Mesopotamia. Now, mainstream linguists might call this a coincidence, but the connections don't just stop at the name. Let's go back to what they looked like.
Remember that description the Hopi gave of their ant friends? Big heads, skinny bodies, huge eyes, but still a basically human-like shape? Got that image in your head? Now look at this. This is the modern archetype of the gray alien, the kind made famous in all those UFO encounter stories. The descriptions are practically identical.
It really seems like this specific image of a non-human being has been with us for a very, very long time. And this archetype isn't just in myths, it pops up all through history. You see echoes of it in ancient art, like that famous astronaut figure carved into the Nazca Desert in Peru. Then it explodes back into popular culture in the 20th century with the Betty and Barney Hill case, which basically introduced the gray alien to the world. And as recently as 1994, dozens of schoolchildren in Zimbabwe gave incredibly similar descriptions of beings they claimed to see. This figure just keeps showing up.
So what's the really crucial point here? It's that this archetype of a non-human helper, from the ancient ant people all the way to the modern gray, it connects to one of our deepest, most powerful ideas as a species, the promise of a returning savior.
I mean, really think about it. This theme is the bedrock of so many of the world's major religions. Zoroastrians are waiting for Sakyant, Hindus are waiting for Kalki, Buddhists for Maitreya, and the Abrahamic faiths for Messiah Ahmadi. They're all these powerful figures who are promised to return at the end of an era to save the worthy and create a brand new world.
And this brings us right back, full circle, to the Hopi. Because for them, this isn't just a story about the distant past, it's a living prophecy about our future. They believe that our current world, which they call the fourth world, is getting close to its end. And when that time comes, the ant people will emerge one final time to guide the virtuous to safety, just like they did for their ancestors all those ages ago.
So, all of this leaves us with one really profound question. When we see these nearly identical stories, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, are we just seeing the universal patterns of human storytelling? Or could we be hearing the faint, distant echoes of a shared global memory?